Yes. Paper Mario, the Origami King. The only game that divides humanity. Yeah, for some reason, if you happen to not like this game, you get freaking bombarded by the diehard fans of this game for some reason. If it wasn't clear, I don't really like this game that much, but my friend Daniel really does for whatever reason. Just to show you how much our differences in hate and love for this game are, he gave this game a 9 for a personal score, and I gave this game a 4.5 on a personal score. Literally half of his. So even though I really want to move past this game, this funny divide between us on a collab ranking is too good to pass up. And because you didn't watch our ttyd ranking due to that video on flopping like absolute garbage, I'll explain real quick how this will go. We'll go from rank to rank, and I'll share what I have there, and then Daniel will share what he has there. So, without further ado, let's get started in last place. I think this was a pretty easy last place. Chapter 1 of Paper Mario is usually towards the bottom, but they usually have one thing to save them. ttyd has Koops, and 64 is Cooper, and also a great first dungeon. But here, I feel like we get a giant nothing burger, and I feel this, in my opinion, Olivia is a character that really needs people to be a character that's like entertaining to read dialogue from. Her and Bobby in Chapter 2 are a great example of this. The Earth Temple and Outlook Tower are such forgettable dungeons, and then the Color Pencils boss is literally made for toddlers, so you probably forgot about it, because I sure as hell did. There's also some stupid stone hunt in the mountain, which I dislike, and that's really all. And honestly, I completely forget everything else. Overall, Chapter 1 is easily dead last for me because it has nothing going for it.
Yeah, Chapter 1 isn't really all too great. It's the only one that doesn't include any real character dialogue or story. Every other chapter has someone for Olivia to bounce off of, be it Bobby, Professor Toad, Luigi and the Origami Craftsman, Kamek and Bowser Jr. or Bowser. For Chapter 1, all you really get is this one dry bones that she mistakes for an actual dead Koopa. Outside of that, all you really get is the elevator joke in Overlook Tower, which I'll admit is funny. Speaking of, Overlook Tower really is just the one saving grace of this chapter. It's a good dungeon. To play around with the limited overworld abilities you have and do something creative with the limiting of the confetti. The two bosses are also a massive pile of nothing. Granted, they're the first two, so it's forgivable, but it doesn't save this chapter from last. You could do a lot better than this, but you could also do a lot worse. On to number 5.
At 5th place, I have Chapter 2. Now this is probably an insane take to most of you, but I just did not care for this chapter. The only redeeming quality for me is the silly dialogue that Olivia and Bobby had that I just mentioned in the Chapter 1 segment, and also just Bobby as a whole. But besides that, the gameplay is very lackluster. The water dungeon is only a tad better than the earth one. I think it gets forgiven a bit for having a good boss at the end though. And I also just do not like Shogun Studios at all as a dungeon. It's a great idea as a concept, but they executed it like really badly. I found it incredibly boring, and the really solid theater section isn't enough to save the time I spent getting to it. And plus, Rubber Band is such a whatever boss, but I just do not like this chapter, and I don't think its highs can save the mediocrity.
Chapter 6 is really just too short to make it higher. Had the Origami Castle actually been the length of the old trilogy's final dungeons, it would have been such a banger, because what's here is really good. The airship sequence is awesome, the Stapler's a great boss, and it results in a really powerful emotional moment for Olivia, Bowser's a good final partner, and everything from Olly to the credits is just pure gold. Olly's various phases are good, although a bit underwhelming gameplay-wise. Olivia and Olly's back and forwards and the entire phase with the big Bowser are really what make this fight so good, though. The ending is also just a massive moment of either heartbreak, relief, or pure joy, just depending on the player. Yes, it could have been handled in a better way, probably, but this is more than fine. It really just should have been longer, as its highs are really high, but that's kind of all it has. It's time for number 4.
I think you get the point by now. This game's second half is far better than the first half. Chapter 3 is fine, I guess. I think it would be better if it was just shorter. The ship is one of the best sections in the game, but the desert just drags on a lot. The Fire Shrine is pretty decent, but the Firebird itself is a really garbage boss. And then the Pyramid Dungeon is also really boring, and then you fight one of the worst bosses in the game to end the chapter. I think the visuals of the nighttime desert and the boots being a transportation method are some positives, and plus Professor Toad's pretty cool, I guess. I'm definitely not biased by this pose that he makes that describes my feelings for this game perfectly. It was in my original video's thumbnail. Overall, Chapter 3 would be a decent chapter if it wasn't 10,000 years long.
Chapter 4 definitely grew on me during my second playthrough. The first time I got here, I was just comparing it to the behemoths that were chapters 2 and 3 before it, and just finding it rather underwhelming. The second time around though, it got a lot better. Finding the islands and solving the puzzle on each one is quite fun despite being a bit obtuse. The real standout moment of this chapter though is the scene on Mushroom Island with the Origami Craftsman. There's not much else story-wise in here, and it's probably because of this scene that this chapter doesn't have its own partner. Whatever, the bosses are okay. Both Tape and Icevel are fine. They have their own gimmicks that are good in their own fight, but compared to the other Vels or Legion of Stationary respectively, they're in the bottom half of each. I also just think the Sea Tower is weirdly short once again. I think they intended for Diamond Island to be the real dungeon of the chapter, and it kind of works. I like the Trials of Strength and Wisdom, but the Reflex one can go die, and that's a whole nother thing. It really feels like I've been complaining for this entire segment, but I still like the chapter, it's pretty good. It's devoid of any real highs besides the Origami Craftsman scene, but it doesn't have any real low points either. Now onto the top half.
Just like in my ttyd ranking, I have the final chapter of the game at the middle of the list. Now this chapter is actually decent, but it's just too short to give it that much credit. Unlike the other Paper Mario Final Dungeons, this one has a really quick one that's pretty underwhelming. And if you don't run into the battles, because if you do, be prepared to suffer. But this one does contain a really good final boss, which actually has a really banging theme that I'm playing in the background right now. But besides that, even outside of the final dungeon, there really isn't much to be noted except for my goat Kamek quote-unquote dying. Overall, Chapter 6 is pretty decent, but it's let down by its short length.
It's a bit crazy that a chapter as solid as 3 ends up 3rd, but that's just the way it be sometimes. Wow, this chapter is absolutely fantastic. It starts with the bombshell, pun not intended, that is the ship and Bobby's death. While the ship is good by itself, the part where you return to Sweet Paper Valley all the way to when you first see the lights of Sniff City is the best story part of the entire game. It captures the mood of everything so well, and Olivia's just such a sweet soul that it makes Bobby's death that much more impactful. We can't forget about the breezy tunnel theme that plays right after Olivia runs in there. Seriously, this is so well done. It's even further extended by when you reach the desert only to find out that the streamer's burying insane and Olivia starts sulking again. It's just all great. From here, the chapter becomes a bit slower paced with finding Prof Toad, all the stones, solving the riddles, and so on, but in all reality, it goes by a lot faster than you think. I will, however, throw an honorable mention to Eclipse the Sun Across the Lake. That's a really good riddle. Sniff City is also a really good town for this chapter, and it has really cool vibes. The Firevel is one of this game's most unique bosses and is genuinely really cool. It makes you think. The Temple of Shrooms is also one of this game's best dungeons. Just all of the chapters awesome, and it's number 3. It's mostly this low because of its insane length. This is one of the longest chapters in the entire series, and you can tell. If you let the high points carry the chapter, it's one of the best in the series, but it's pretty easy to get bored during the searching portion, and that can definitely sour the experience. Still, awesome chapter. On to number 2.
I never really expected Chapter 4 to be this high, but once I realized how lackluster everything else below this is, I wasn't really that shocked. I really like the sea traveling, and plus there's random stuff to do while you're there looking for the next island. And plus it features one of the best moments in the game with the plot twist that Olivia was made by Olly. That doesn't end there though, because you also get fun puzzles across the islands, and the trials on Diamond Island, which are good challenges for the player. Not so much the Wisdom one, but the other two can be pretty challenging, especially the Reflex one. That one is pretty fucking annoying. I think the one weakness of this chapter is definitely the Ice Shrine, which I do not care for at all. But even then, it's made up for the Sea Tower, which is a short and sweet dungeon, only let down by the mediocre tape fight that has no business being that easy. Overall, Chapter 4 is pretty good, with not much to knock it for.
Chapter 5 is so good, dude. It takes elements that would normally be eye-rolling, especially for the new trilogy, and makes them work so incredibly well. We'll start with the main partner, which is Kamek. Within the context of the new trilogy, or at least until this point, he's only served as a massive roadblock and annoyance, so who could have guessed that he would make for one of this series' best partners? He bounces off of Olivia and Bowser Jr. really well, and helps you immensely, both in the overworld and battle. Speaking of the overworld, Shangri Spa is genuinely on the level of the old trilogy in terms of pure creativity. All of Bowser's minions having to work to pay off the damages is executed so well. Bowser Jr. is such an annoying little shit, but realistically I wouldn't have expected anything else, and it's because of his incompetence that we get some really good moments. Some examples are when he gets chopped up at the beginning of the chapter and all the disagreements on the path to the Spring of Jungle Mist. Speaking of, that chain jump chase during the entire segment is a really smart addition because it helps make the entire section way more interesting. Another aspect from the new trilogy that's adapted here is the game show, which I guys finished last. This is so much better than both Sniff It or Whiff It. outfits, there's no debating that. I haven't even discussed the dungeon yet, by the way. Bowser's Castle is such a good dungeon, and that's once again because of the power of its story moments. Olivia just getting snatched from you and then seeing the lanky cutout guys is so well done, and the music puts you on edge yet again. Handaconda is a really creative boss. The same goes for the scissors, which is genuinely scary because of his one-shot move. I'm trying to go somewhat quick for the sake of this video's length, but man, this chapter is just so good. It might genuinely be in my top 10 of the entire series. And this isn't even my number 1, but first, Pokemon's top spot.
I think everybody can get behind this one. Chapter 5 is really solid, and even I can admit that. The spot looks beautiful and it's pretty fun. The jungle is kind of annoying, but it does have some fun dialogue, and plus the chain chomp scene is very fucking scary. And plus, this chapter has Kamek, which is probably my favorite partner from this game, even if Bobby exists. He is really silly and amazing in battle, so shoutouts to my boy Kamek. And even though Bowser's Castle is on the shorter side, the bosses absolutely make up for it. The Handaconda is really fun, and the Scissors is honestly the second best fight of the game. And plus, the static tall people, when you see them for the first time, are actually kind of terrifying. I think my only negative from this chapter is easily the sumo boss, which is kinda ass, but besides that, this chapter bangs. At least this game has something going for it. On to the end, and then let's wrap this shit up.
Chapter 2 is pretty much a shoo-in for the top spot, but I'll elaborate anyway. Bobby's the best partner in the game and an easy top 5 of the series. Him and Olivia are the power couple of this chapter and carry it so fucking hard. Autumn Mountain is absolutely beautiful, and the making of new memories with Bobby is just so wholesome, I can't. The lower points are definitely Chestnut Valley and the Watervale Temple, but neither are truly bad. They're both more than good, and you can't really remove either. Also, the Watervale is the best Vale. Shogun Studios is a bit confusing of a dungeon, but that doesn't really matter when Bobby and Olivia exist. There are just so many good moments here. You spend a lot of time wandering around, gathering and delivering random things, but it's not too bad with all the scattershot bits of comedy in there, like for example the costume bit where Olivia laughs her ass off. To balance that, Big Show Theater is one of the coolest things in any Paper Mario game, end of sentence. The entire chapter just has such a wholesome feel, and the locations only make it better. Shogun Studios has so many opportunities for good character moments, and the game absolutely takes all of them. Once again, a lot of it is carried by Bobby and Olivia, but does that really matter? No, it's just a blast to play. Easily a top 10 Paper Mario chapter for me, and the best chapter in all of Origami King. Cue the outro.
So yeah, that's our ranking of the Origami King chapters. I hope Dan enters his glazing arc for this video, but I guess I'll see that once this part comes in and I have to edit this dang video. Note after recording, cooking the thumbnail for this was fun as hell. Shoutouts to Dan for the backgrounds. Everything else was cooked up by yours truly. Overall, Origami King is pretty mediocre chapters-wise, but at least it has chapter 5. I know that statement doesn't represent the whole video, considering Dan is here, but my video, my rules, goddammit. Anyways, that's the end. Thanks for watching. Peace.